Week 4, Miami. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. If you already did that, that means a lot to me. Without further ado, let's rank all the teams as we always do in this channel. Um, let's start with Cadillac. Cadillac, I don't think they doing anything surprising so far. To be honest, at this stage, I just think the Cadillacs, they are racing pretty much Aston Martin at the bottom. Um, they they've managed to finish the race, both drivers, I believe. If I got my figures correct, um, yeah, they've managed to finish the race during the sprint race as well. They also managed to complete the race. So in that regard, I think it's only fair to say that the Cadillac, um, they continue to be poor. There's no high expectations from the Cadillac um, team. I honestly don't know what to say from them. I've watched the race. I've watched the sprint race, but there was not much that was being displayed um, from neither of the Cadillacs. I think Sergio Perez was able to overtake some of the William drivers, but I think that was the highlight of the weekend for the Cadillac team. But outside of that, I don't think there's anything major happening with the Cadillac team. So my expectations for the Cadillac is that they will continue to have a poor performance, or at least try to represent their teams in the best way that they can. With having too much expectations for them at the moment. Um, Moving on, the Red Bulls. What do I think? I don't know. This one is quite of a mixed feelings for me. Obviously, um, Hazik Hajar not being able to complete the race. Obviously, he clipped the barriers. I think was in turn 9, in turn 10. He got disappointed, very disappointed. Obviously, there's high expectations for him to perform at Red Bull because Red Bull is one of those teams that the second seat is been under fire for a couple months now, and there's not many people that survived on that seat. But Hazik Hajar is one of those rookies last season that was able to perform under the Racing Bulls, and he actually surprised a lot of people, and I was happy for him to get promoted. Um, yeah, but just moving on his performance alone this week, I don't think. I think he got annoyed. Obviously, he crashed the car. He did okay in sprint racing, if I'm not mistaken. He was able to finish P10. I don't have all the figures in front of me right now, but the other driver, Max Verstappen, I think he managed to finish P6 or P5. Yeah, but obviously he got a penalty as well. That obviously, um, for the penalty, I think was basically for crossing the white line going into the pit lane. Some of the things that I think worked for Red Bull is just obviously the new upgrades worked in their favor, because we could see this from the qualifying laps. He was able to qualify in P2, which is extremely amazing considering that they haven't Max Verstappen. I think this is their best effort in qualifying so far. So the upgrades are working well for the Red Bull, but overall both cars are still not able to collect points during the weekday. I also don't have the figures, the results for the sprint race. But yeah, I think Red Bull, one of the drivers did okay. I mean, the upgrades seem to be working for Max. Obviously, Max is one of those drivers that is able to maximize the best performance out of the car. Isaac, on the other hand, he's not too happy with the upgrades. He's still complaining about some of the reliability issues and comfort inside the car. So I think the Red Bull, I don't know, because they were able to collect some points, and because Max was the upgrades also allowed Max to collect his best qualifying position so far in P2. I think they did. I think they did good enough. The Alpines. I think the Alpines. I think this is. Um, I'm trying to race. I'm trying to rank the teams collectively and not individually. Even though Pierre Gasly was not able to perform, was not able to finish the race, Colapinto, I keep getting the names wrong, but there's so much data and names to remember. So just bear with me. Colapinto, essentially, I think this is one of his best performance for Alpine, and I think this is the second time or the third time in a row that he's able to collect points for in a row for Alpine, and this is the highest position ever in Formula One in his career. So I think this is a big milestone for the Alpine. I don't know. I just think the Alpine overall, they look solid as well. They brought upgrades to this to the Miami circuit. The car seems to be well balanced. I think they had it showed better. They had better performance overall. I think this break that we had, I think especially for the Mercedes customers, it seems like there was a slightly performance overall for all the teams that have a Mercedes engine, and I was able to see that from a call up into performance. He was racing Hamilton at one point, and for me it was quite shocking to see Colapinto, taking on the big names and overtaking the likes of the Ferrari. Even though the Ferrari had Lewis Hamilton at one point had his car was he bumped into someone, and just that I think caused some damage. But regardless, let's not take the merit away from the Colapinto collecting solid points for Alpine. Moving on with the Aston Martins. I don't want to be too critical of Aston Martins. I think Aston Martin, it's one of those. It's that team that we all know they're not exactly where they want to be. Obviously, they continue to finish the race, which is good. The last two races, they were able to have both drivers finish the races without any technical issues. At this point, I'm not so sure whatever the vibration issue, it's been fixed or not. But because I haven't heard anyone talking it or mention in the media, so I'm assuming the issue is not as big as it used to be. So I think that's a positive for the Aston Martin. But in terms of team dimension, I just think they're doing poorly. But they were not disaster compared to the first two races. And the fact that they are now able to complete races is good. And, to give him even more credit, there was other teams that were not able to complete races, like, for example, the likes of the Audis. I think they had a lot of reliability issues during qualifying and during the sprint racing. So I didn't see that at all from the Aston Martin. So I think they're poor, but it's a slightly positive compared to the previous week. I think the team that surprised me the most this week, not only this week but last week as well. But last week it's we already ranked the teams, but I think McLarens are improving a lot. And I just think they did amazing. It's another week where the McLarens could have, I wouldn't say easily won the Miami Grand Prix, but I think there's some frustration in the way that the team decided to beat Norris. I think at the end they started to realize, Norris kind of realized that the undercut that was the mind games between Mercedes and the McLarens. Obviously, the Mercedes were able to undercut the McLarens, and I think that's where some of the frustration could possibly be on the minds of the McLarens there, because they were not too far off from Antonelli. I think the gap between the first and the second there was less than 3 seconds or 3 seconds. So because the Mercedes were able to, undercut the McLarens, I think that's the frustration. That's the minimum frustration that McLaren will have. But then again, finishing in P2 and P3, I think that is solid, considering that they also dominated the the sprint race, locking P1 for Norris and P2 for Piastri. So overall, I think the McLarens did amazing. We also this weekend everyone brought upgrades, with the exception of Mercedes, which is I'll get into that in a second. But Mercedes, I think it was the only team that didn't bring any upgrades. But the McLarens, obviously, the upgrades are working amazing, and they obviously not only had the pace, race pace, they dominated the sprint. In FP1, they were, I think, the Piastri was in P3, which is a solid statement from the McLarens, and there was a possibility for them to win the race. But regardless, they didn't win the race, but they collected solid points for the McLaren. So I think they were amazing overall. Solid performance again, and they continue to improve. And I think a win for the McLaren, it's bound to happen. I would say within the next two races, McLaren will definitely secure a win. Either coming from Piastri or Norris, both drivers, they have the ability, the skills, and the knowledge to secure races, to secure wins for the McLaren. So I think within the next two races or so, we're gonna see one of the McLaren boys win a race for McLaren. The Audis, I don't know. I don't think anyone was a disaster this weekend, but the Audis were slightly poor. Both drivers completely outside of the points. Nico Hulkenberg, I can't remember what happened to him. Did he have an engine failure at some point? I don't think he crashed the car. I can't remember exactly. But yeah, he finished. He didn't qualify. As for his teammate P12, again, Aldi didn't collect any points. I think in sprint race, they didn't collect any points as well. I think Gabriel Bortoleto had to abort his race because there was his brakes, the rear brakes were on fire, and that completely made his race weekend basically a nightmare for Audi. And yeah, Audi, they have a lot of work to do. I'm not so sure what kind of upgrades they brought into this weekend. I've been completely away from Formula One for a while, and I've not been able to catch up on everything. But in terms of upgrades, I didn't see anything from Audi, but I'm sure Mercedes are the only team that failed to show any type of upgrades this weekend. So yeah, Audi, a lot of work to do. Moving on to the Ferrari. Ferrari. I don't know. I don't think they were amazing. I don't. They were definitely not supreme. I just think they were good. Um, maybe they were poor. Maybe they were poor. Um, I don't know. I don't know what. I mean, let's think about it. Lewis Hamilton finished P7, Charles P6. Um, I don't know. I think they were poor, to be honest. If the more you think about it, if you include obviously the Charles Leclerc dominated practice one, and then in sprint racing, they were not able to match the pace of the Mercedes or the pace of the McLarens. Lewis Hamilton did not feel like a threat at any point. He was able to qualify in P6 sprint race, I believe, and finish P6 or P7, if I'm not mistaken, in race during the race week. During the race day, he also qualified in P7. At any point, Lewis Hamilton was a threat to no team. Even the likes of Colapinto was able to challenge the Ferraris. I think Leclerc overall was the best Formula One Ferrari driver for the weekend. Um, but yeah, obviously he had an amazing um, race. It was very close to come to finish on a podium, but unfortunately things didn't go so well at the end. He lost like 3 places. East Pan, and he did it like a 360, but he was able to control the car. It was like a miracle. I don't know how some of these drivers are able to span the car 360 and able to control the car and face in the direction that they are supposed to be going, and that's exactly what he did. But yeah, that cost him. At that time, he already lost the podium to Piastri. Piastri was on his tail the whole race. So, but yeah, I just don't think the upgrades worked so well for the Ferrari. Or I just don't think um, this um, this track favored the Ferrari drivers at any point. I didn't see any apart from Leclerc on the race day. Outside of that, I think the Ferrari drivers they struggle a bit. But yeah, I think they were poor overall, and obviously McLaren now into the picture. They're starting to take a lot of the positions that they were able to collect and gain the points, while the McLarens were, not even starting races or having one of the drivers only racing. So the McLarens being into the picture, obviously that makes it extremely difficult for the Ferraris now to grab those points that were available when the McLarens were having a lot of issues. So yeah, a lot of McLaren, not McLaren, but Ferrari, a lot of work to do. Moving on to the Haas, yeah, I think Haas were also poor. If we consider that the Haas team has been the most surprising midfield team, and we got used to the Haas, collecting points, especially Oliver Behrman doing collecting solid points every single week. This weekend, I think both drivers were outside of the points. Oliver Behrman P11 and Esteban Ocon P13, completely outside of the points. I think for the race, sprint race, I think was the same thing. They were outside of the points as well, if I'm not mistaken. Again, don't quote me on this. If you haven't watched the highlights, I suggest you to go and watch the highlights. Amazing race, by the way. But yeah, Haas team again. Uh, there's not much that I can say. I think both drivers. I don't know. It seems like there was a lot of drivers this weekend that they were struggling around this track. Whatever was the heat during qualifying, sprint qualifying, or qualifying for the race. I don't know, but it seems like a lot of the drivers, a lot of the teams are not comfortable around this track. It's a very difficult track. It's very tight, especially there was a lot of slow mid corners, very tight corners. But yeah, the Haas drivers didn't impress me at all. I'm trying to think to give them credits or to give them points to move them slightly above, but I'm trying to think of what happened in during the sprint race. I don't know. I'm just gonna have to leave them there, unfortunately, because yeah, they're completely outside of the points, and I didn't see anything major from either of the drivers. Maybe the media wasn't broadcasting enough at the far back to see what was happening. But yeah, has yeah, I think they were just poor. Williams, I think the Williams were good. The reason why I say Williams were good, I think I think this is the first time that we actually have seen both drivers collecting points. Again, my statistics, my data for this week is just it's just me trying to think, getting data out of the blue, on top of my head, should I say? But yeah, both drivers were able to collect the last 2 points. I think Williams, Carlos P9, Alex Albon um, P10. Yeah, who were they fighting during the race? I honestly don't remember. At some point, I think they were both fighting Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen obviously had a lot of issues. He bumped into a lot of drivers. He made a lot of contact on his first lap. He obviously done a 360 as well. He was able to control his car, and after that, he was in contact with one of the Williams, I believe. But they were having a pretty good fight for the initial 2 laps or so. But the Williams, I don't know. It was just like there was so many interesting fights at the front, but that I think the media completely missed out. So yeah, overall, Williams, I think they did okay. They collected solid points. But yeah, nothing amazing from Williams just yet. Seems like the upgrades are starting to pay dividends. Mercedes, I think Mercedes were amazing as well. I don't think they were supreme this weekend. They did not dominate the weekend at all. Not through qualifying, not through sprint qualifying, or even in sprint racing. I think even though Kimi Antonelli accomplished another milestone for him as a teenager, and pretty much he eclipsed everything that happened, or everything that McLaren were able to achieve during the weekend. I think McLaren, even though they didn't win the race, I think they were more dominant than the Mercedes. But I just think Kimi Antonelli securing his third podium, or third win of the weekend from pole position. I think he accomplished another a milestone. He remind you, he's only a teenager, and he's already giving George Russell a headache. George Russell, if he thought he would be running away from with the championship simply because he had a better car, then Kimi Antonelli came into the picture to give him a run for his money. But yeah, Kimi Antonelli did brilliant. I just think the win slipped away from the McLaren I think they just got the strategy wrong. But yeah, not trying to speak too much on McLaren. Obviously, we covered McLaren already. Overall, they were okay. They were amazing. Russell also on the point. He was able to benefit from McLaren, from the disaster that happened to Charles Leclerc. He spun the car, then a 360. Was able to control the car, not to hit the barriers, but didn't damage the car to a point where he was completely out, disqualified from the race. He lost just 2 places before Oscar Piastri overtook him to third position. So Max and Russell were able to capitalize on that mistake. But yeah, Mercedes, they did well. Remind you again, Mercedes is the only team that didn't bring any upgrades to this weekend. So even though they didn't have any upgrades, they've managed to secure a win. So that just tells you how much of a beast Mercedes car is in regards to overall package. And I suspect that the gap between first and second place, once they get the upgrades up and rolling next week, or in Canada race week, I think they'll continue to dominate. By how much, we honestly don't know. Last but not least, the Racing Bulls. I think the Racing Bulls overall, they were really poor. Again, not trying to bash them or anything, but I didn't see any major performance from either of the drivers, completely outside of the point. Um, Leon Lawson obviously crashed into Colapinto, not Colapinto, but Pierre Gasly, making his race a week to forget. I'm not trying to say it's Leon Lawson's fault, but he broke too late, and he was unfortunately unable to prevent the situation of crashing into him and completely destroying his race. And that obviously caused damage to his car, and eventually he had to retire his car as well. As for Lindblad, he managed to complete the race, but completely outside of the points. There was nothing interesting that I saw from the media on his race. I don't think I don't even know who he was battling the entire race. There was almost no records of him having an interesting fight with anyone. We usually see him overtaking or having a go